All right, let's talk about banking stocks. I know, for a lot of investors, they can be one of the most confusing things out there. But today, we're going to demystify them completely. You know that feeling when you open up a bank's financial report and your eyes just glaze over? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It feels like this total black box, right? Like, where do you even start? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We are going to crack that code. And by the end of this, you're going to have a simple but really powerful toolkit, just a few key numbers that'll let you look at any bank and get a real sense of what's going on under the hood. So, ready? Let's get to it. Okay, first things first. We got to understand a bank's money engine. I mean, at its core, a bank's business is super simple. It takes in money, and then it lends that money out. So the most basic question is, where does it get its cash? And more importantly, how much is it costing them? And that brings us to our very first tool in the toolkit, the CASA ratio. CASA is just an acronym. It stands for current accounts and savings accounts. So this ratio, it just tells you what chunk of a bank's total deposits come from people's everyday checking and savings accounts. It's basically the bedrock of the bank's funding.
So why do we care so much about CASA? Simple. It's the cheapest money a bank can get its hands on. Think about it. A current account, it pays you 0 interest. A savings account, usually a pretty low rate, maybe 3 or 4%. Now compare that to a fixed deposit, an FD, where the bank has to shell out, say, 7% interest. See the difference? CASA is like the bank's low-cost raw material. And just like any business, the cheaper your raw materials, the bigger your potential profit.
All right, so you're probably thinking, got it, higher CASA ratio equals better bank. Makes sense, right? But not so fast. It's actually not that simple, and this is a little trap that a lot of investors fall into.
To really see what's going on, we need our next tool. It's called the cost of funds. And this one is great because it cuts through all the noise. It just gives you one simple number, the average interest rate a bank pays on all its money. CASA, FDs, you name it. This is the true all-in cost of their raw material. And this is the perfect example of why it matters. Let's look at these two banks. You see Kotak Bank with a CASA ratio of 52%. Wow, that looks amazing, right? But wait, look at their cost of funds. It's 5.1%. Why? Well, they got that high CASA by offering really high interest on their savings accounts. Now look at HDFC. Their CASA is lower, only 42%, but their actual cost of funds is also lower at 4.88%. So here's the kicker. HDFC is actually getting its money cheaper. See? The cost of funds tells you the real story, not just the headline number. Okay, so now we know how to check the cost of a bank's funding. The next logical question is, what do they do with that money? Well, they lend it out. And that, my friends, is where we find the single biggest risk in the entire banking business. Let's talk about NPAs.
NPA, it stands for non-performing asset. But really, all you need to know is it means a bad loan, a loan that's not being paid back. The net NPA ratio just tells you what percentage of a bank's total loan book has gone bad.
And listen, if there's one number you take away from this today, it's this one. The NPA ratio is arguably the most crucial metric of all. A bank's whole job, its entire reason for being, is to lend money to people who will pay it back. A low NPA number tells you you've got a smart, disciplined management team. A high number? That's a huge red flag. It's screaming that they're making bad lending decisions. And the difference it makes is just staggering. A top-tier bank might have a net NPA of, say, 0.4%. Think about that. For every $100 they lend, only 40 cents is at risk. But a high-risk bank, it might have an NPA of 4%. That's 10 times worse. That's not just a small problem. That's a sign of a fundamental issue at the very core of their business.
All right, so we've got our funding cost, we've got our lending quality. That brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. What's their potential for future growth?
And for that, we turn to something called the Capital Adequacy Ratio, or CAR for short. The easiest way to think about this is like the fuel in a car's tank. It's the extra capital a bank keeps on hand. It does two things. One, it acts as a safety cushion to absorb any surprise losses. And two, and this is key, it's the money they use to fund new loans. And new loans are what drive growth.
Now here's a number you'll want to file away, 12%. Regulators have their own rules, but for you as an investor, if you see a bank's CAR getting close to 12%, or even worse, dropping below it, that's a big warning sign. It's basically telling you the fuel tank is running on empty. They don't have much room to absorb a hit, and they definitely don't have the resources to grow.
The connection here is really direct. It's simple.
A bank with a nice high CAR has a strong foundation. That lets them go out and confidently make new loans. That leads to something the industry calls advances growth, which is just a fancy way of saying their loan book is growing. And a growing loan book is what leads to growing profits.
So, we've looked at the cost of money, the risk of lending, and the fuel for growth. Now for the best part. Let's put all these pieces together and see how this beautiful machine, a really well-run bank, actually works.
And this really is the whole story. It's a fantastic virtuous cycle. It all starts with low NPAs and a low cost of funds. When a bank does that well, it protects its capital, which leads to a strong capital adequacy ratio. That strong CAR acts like rocket fuel, letting them grow their loan book. And that is what drives profits and creates real value for shareholders. See how it all connects? Each good part makes the next part even better.
And that's it. That's the toolkit. Cost of funds, net NPA, and capital adequacy ratio. Just those three. With this core framework, you can now look right past all the market noise and the crazy headlines, and you can actually analyze the real, fundamental health of any bank out there.
So it's not a black box anymore, is it? You've got the keys. You can open the hood and see exactly how the engine is running. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you look at a bank's financials, what story are those numbers going to tell you?